Hi everybody, my name is Adam Zieliński. I work for the Foundation for Polish Science. My idea of our presentation is as follows. I will draw a gloomy and depressing picture of RRI in Poland, and then hand over mic to my colleagues who will hopefully give us some hope and present promising practices. So the first slide that you see is a way of saying that the starting point in case of Poland was slightly different because we are usually catching up with the rest, and ideas which are already known somewhere else are still new in Poland. So instead of explaining the complicated history, we decided to present this kind of poster, and here you can see the faces of some of our most active hub members. So my opening remarks would be as follows. So I think that the idea of RRI is still far from being acknowledged in Poland. There are some areas gathered under the roof of RRI which are relatively developed, like science education, but there are others which are neglected. This is the case of ethics, for instance. And it is perhaps specific for Poland that civil society organization has taken the lead. Public agencies are lagging behind, as always. Business remains indifferent, I would say. And in case of research community, I think we can talk about some sort of skeptical look at RRI. And when we were gathering promising practices last year, so we managed to identify a few of them. And what is interesting is that most of them concerned either science education or public engagement. The second thing is that most of those practices were relatively new, meaning 1, 2, 3 years old. And the first thing is, I think it's interesting in the context of our toolkit, or the toolkit that we will try to build soon, is that there are cases of practices that were invented somewhere else and successfully implemented in Poland with some sort of adoption to local conditions. And the last thing I wanted to say now is that the main conclusion from the workshop that we had in Warsaw was that we should go for what I call a tactical disaggregation of RRI concept. And I will return to this closer to the end. And now I would like to ask my colleague Wiktor Gajewski from the Copernicus Science Center to present the first of our promising practices. Wiktor, what's yours?
So I'd like to show you a little experimental dialogue event we did before the term RRI was even existing. We did it amidst debate on genetically modified organism in Poland, and we think it's promising, even if it's kind of basic tool, because we want to adapt it to be a tool to bring the concept of RRI to a wider public, to the lay public. And while making this experiment, we made a few assumptions. First one is, probably you will agree, that people are not stupid. And they know a lot, especially about the topics that concern them as GMOs. Maybe they don't know facts, scientific facts that are scientifically true, if there is something like that, but they have their opinion, and they can easily reach to information that go together with their viewpoint and opinion. Basically, those opinions are formed depending on the affinity you have to certain groups. If you like scientists, if you trust scientists, you will value more the information that are scientifically valid or seem so. If you prefer Greenpeace movement, you will trust their information. Therefore, opinions equal facts. In public debate, I don't make the division, because in people's perception, emotional perception, they are as important as each other. So therefore, we decided that pumping more information into people is pointless, and trying to convince them is definitely hard work. So instead, let's move a step back and try to make them talk with with you'll see who. So we introduced a format. It's adapted format of a science cafe. You all know science cafes are great, but we noticed that in Poland usually there's an expert who speaks in an informal setting of a cafe or a club, and then there's a set of questions, and then everybody goes home. We wanted more. Therefore, we decided to reverse the role of experts and public. In a way, the setting up you will recognize as a world cafe setting of tables. So there's big tables, and there's people, and there's experts. But this time, the experts ask questions. We worked with different scientists and also with a journalist and a lawyer that are dealing with GMOs. And we told them to prepare a few questions that they don't know answers for. For example, what are your expectations as a biologist for these GMO researchers in Poland? Who would you like, who you think should inform you about GMOs, asks a press communicator. Or is GMO transplant crossing a line? What do you think as a doctor? So we prepared those questions with them, and then we introduced public in a obviously informal cafe setting. It's in our science center, it's not very informal, but we had cookies and coffee. And then expert comes to the table, asks the question and leaves. And people have to prepare the answer, based on their opinions, facts, knowledge. Then the expert comes back, and then the discussion starts. Discussion, engaged conversation, which was the aim of this experiment. What did we do? Did we change anybody's opinion on GMOs? I suppose not, and I didn't want to do that at the time, because I wanted to do something much more important on a basic level. I was trying to help people build relations to different stakeholders that have a say in GMOs, and to introduce those stakeholders, to show a spectrum of people who are dealing with the issue professionally, and also to show the public that they can speak up and they have something interesting to say, and we should all talk and listen to each other. And hopefully we will develop it into something much more complicated to involve even more stakeholders and even more perspectives from this new RRI thing we're talking about. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Victor. Now let us move on quickly to another practice. This is Dr. Marcin Grünberg, a colleague of mine, who is not only an excellent researcher, but also a co-founder of so-called Citizens of Academia, social movement within the research community.
Thank you. We started the movement 3 years ago, and you can see a few facts that made us angry. We just thought, why 0.3% of GDP is invested in Poland to science if the innovation is the keywords of every government. So how do they want to do it with no scientist involvement and with such a low level of investment into science? And of course, other problems where humanities PhD students don't even get a dime in order to push their studies. They have to just to earn their money in some other ways. The so-called innovativeness rate is quite low. It's the third worst in EU. Very limited mobility of Polish scientists and very low success rate in applying for EU money. 2 minutes, too bad. So we thought, since there is no system and presidents are looking for ways presidents of universities are looking for ways to understand why government wants science in Poland, we thought it would be nice to try to cope with this. So you will not see the film, but finally what I want to say is our actions. We now ending up with the Pact for Science is an idea into which we invited other organizations in Poland in order to build a group of, to combine problems and ways to solve them in science, both combining education and business, which means it's a triangle in which scientific community is very important. We consulted it with different communities, different groups, and on the 29th, we will present it to the Minister of Science and Higher Education, and to other, I hope, stakeholders. And, but this, the politics stuff that we're doing, we're trying to push somehow the problem of system. But we are also doing some gross actions, as you can see. I will not talk about all of them since there is no time, but one of the most important ones is the Edu Action, which you can see in green. It's an idea to join teachers from universities with teachers from schools in order to learn about openness, open access, and many other aspects. For example, how to work in environment where you have different players. But the most important thing is that they build together citizen science projects that will be applied at schools, at their own schools, not somewhere else. So it goes into specific needs or ideas that arise from meetings, but they are used in this specific surrounding. And of course, as you can see, open science, gender and family balance, legal acts review are very important points in here. I should stress in here that we are around 40 people, no more. And we are trying to do all this stuff, and it's hard. If you want to know more technical issues, I would be happy to help if you want to do it in your country.